see it.
She is special.
Do it. Do we say it? Good to go. Wow. Okay, good afternoon, everybody. It is 1 o'clock, so at this point I'd like to call to order our July 19th meeting of the City of Erie Land Bank. And to start off, I'd like to get a motion to approve our consent agenda.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? And then also like to seek a motion to approve the minutes from our June 21st meeting.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. At that point, I'd like to move to finance report. Wanna go over the numbers, Aaron?
Kelly, do you want to go over the finance report?
Savings account, we still have the PHMA money in there, the $48,000, that is specific to PHMA activities. Sold about 3 properties, which helped increase the general fund a little bit. Other than that, there hasn't been too much activity.
Okay. Any discussion on financials? I just had a quick question on the unearned PHFA. I know we've brought this up before, but what's the progression for that to be earned over time? It shows up unearned now and as
Say that again.
the unearned PHFA housing revenue, just to explain how that works again. If you could.
The 48,000?
Yeah, I'm sorry, you're right.
That is a remainder of the $100,000 that the land bank received. Most of it, you know, the 52,000 short, it was used for demolition of property last year. There's roughly $30,000, 2 units at 15,000 for single-family rehabilitation, and then the remaining of that 48 out, that roughly $18,000 will be allocated to. We have those identified in the appropriate census tract.
Oh, sorry. I phrased the question very well. I was trying to get a breakout of that number. Okay, good. No discussion on the financials. Kathy, did you have any?
I didn't, sorry. Didn't realize we were in person today.
And if there's something like you want me to do differently or more, or report, I can do that. This is just what's been done in the past. Sure. But I can like get a detailed report of like all the properties that were sold, you know,
okay.
the filing fees, you know, things like that. I just been kind of doing what I think Paul did in the past.
Right. But
that can always be changed.
I think what we have is good. We can always email you a question in advance. I should have done that. I wanted a reminder of the breakout of that number. So
okay.
I think it's good.
Okay.
Seek a motion to approve financials.
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, on to citizens' comments. Citizens to be heard.
Ms. Beeson?
I'm here today because I want to speak about the land at 1904 June Street. I want that land because I have a family child care home center, and I feel like I can expand it, and I see where it's around all the public housing, and like the girls that don't have, I see it's not a daycare out, it's not no bigger daycare out that way. I feel like the young girls that have no transportation and things, they can come right up the street to me and sign the kids up. And that's just basically all I have to say. I ain't never spoken in front of people before, this is my first time. But that's basically what I want to do with the land.
Do you have any specific plans you could bring or show us here today?
Not today, but I could get a plan set up for you if you would like.
Do you have an idea of the size of the home you plan to construct now?
I just was there one day and I seen it, and this great idea just came to my mind. I just said, I'm gonna get that, and I'm gonna build a family child care home next year. And then I got on the phone, I figured out how to, put the deed and everything in. And that's just where I'm at. But if you'd like me to get a plan, I'll be able to get one.
I have another question, if I could. You said this would be a family daycare center, so you would live there and
Yes.
run your daycare
Yes.
from that home? Okay.
And I can carry up to 12 kids on each shift.
Do you have a daycare now
Yeah,
that you run
I've
at?
been doing it for two and a half years. I'm currently a star 2 or on star 3, and I'm currently just finishing my CPA.
And
I'm just trying to grow.
Mhm.
And
So
trying
you,
to help other kids, other young girls out that don't have vehicles. Because there's a lot of public housing out there.
Mhm.
Right? And they will be able to give it to them so they can get to work. And I'm only like 2 blocks away from the bus stop.
I see. And so you would move where you currently are into this space?
Yeah, because I want to build there next year.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Is there a time period as far as the building, the home building?
I want to start building next June. Or even in spring, whichever one weighs out the best. But I do want to build it next year.
Thank you.
Aaron?
Yes,
Or
ma'am.
maybe we can discuss it when it's on our agenda. I just wanted a little bit more clarification about the developers agreement that we would have. Is that we would have a developers agreement on this property? Or
No.
we would not?
No, we would not.
Okay.
But
So
are
we
you
s-
saying we should, right?
Well,
I
I'm
think so.
we can, and I'm sorry, I'm kind of jumping all over the agenda,
Well, no, it's
but-
part of it's, because we're gonna review the second
Mhm.
proposal too.
Yes.
It's gonna be part of our decision making here.
I'm just wondering, is it, once we transfer it to this woman, there's no time frame for the construction?
Right, yes,
of
it's
the-
definitely something we could look into
I just-
having, I would agree.
I know the redevelopment authority would typically have a developer's agreement.
Not
Or
primarily
vacant.
for vacant land, that's kind of the,
I see.
The
If there's a
difference.
structure on it, that's when the developer's agreement
Yes.
kicks in, so the structure doesn't continue to decline. We wanna see
exactly, with the
movement on it.
right of reverter and all that in there.
Okay, thank you for the clarification.
Yes. Mr. Horton, did you have anything to say?
Yes. Gary Horton, with the Quality Life Learning Center and Eastside Grassroots Coalition. We have a strategic plan for our area. We meet monthly, second Thursday of each month. And we have an interest in that property being well-maintained as it is now. And then we kind of followed it along. I just met with young lady about her idea. I know she is, she's somebody I'm willing to work with in terms of putting a plan together for that property. I think she should have a plan. I think with ARP and all this other resources that are available, it's an opportunity for her to do so. But I would be hesitant to just say today, okay, here's a land, go ahead and build it, and not knowing what the plan is for doing that, timeline, or anything like that. But we do have an interest, it's right outside our front door, and we've been meeting for about 4 years now. We do have a strategic plan for that area, so we're interested in giving it to neighbors, not giving it to neighbors. Or there's a business that's consistent, or a homeowner that's consistent with the direction we're trying to take.
Thank you.
Thanks, Gary.
All right.
There are no other citizens to be heard. At this time, I'd like to turn it over to the executive director for the director's report. Aaron?
Thanks, Chris. All right, work plan 1, the stipulation agreement has been filed on 422 Poplar Street. We did issue the check over to the Tax Claim Bureau. I received confirmation on Friday they did receive it and are going to deposit that check and take care of any of the other outstanding taxes on that property so that we are good to proceed with conveying that property as soon as the agreement is received back from the person who we sent it to. So we're moving forward on that list. And as you're aware, 1904 June Street was part of the Work Plan 1, so it'd be nice to get that one moving as well. Work Plan 2, we still continue to convey properties on this list. We have received a couple offers, 2421 German Street, which again is on the agenda for today, and then we're still following through on the 502 Dunn Boulevard that was approved last month, along with a couple other offers that were accepted that are still hanging out there waiting on them to get them back to us and get us to closing. Work plan, the 2021 work plan. The tax sale properties have all been cleared by Attorney Sundberg's office, so we're going to work through getting those conveyed over to Best and our West Bayfront. And then as far as the declarations, they've been filed, and we're working through with the redevelopment authority to get those finalized and then have control of those properties here in the next month or so. That is all I have. Do you have any questions?
Thank you, Aaron. Discussion on the work plan.
I'm good, thanks.
Okay.
One other note, the request to the county for that EMI, the switch from Quinn T to EMI, the governance meeting, or they met at the Erie County Land Bank June meeting. They had some additional questions. It was tabled till the governance meeting last Wednesday. They didn't have a quorum, so it'll be up for vote next Wednesday at the Erie County Land Bank meeting for that adjustment to the 2021 work plan.
And as you mentioned that, I did talk, and Chris, I did, Kathy and Debbie, I did talk to Tina and Jean, and she explained to me about the Quinn Martin project, and that's
Okay.
pretty consistent with my understanding was, I guess, because I got to the meeting late last month. I just didn't get a clear picture of
Good.
it. But, you know, I concur and agree with the action on that.
Yeah, we don't
moving forward.
foresee that slowing Quinn down at all. There's quite a bit of environmental
Right.
work that's undergoing over
Yeah.
there, so, okay. Okay, good, Aaron?
Yes, I'm good, thank you.
Okay, thank you. At this point, then, I'd like to move on to the solicitor's report. Mr. Sundberg.
How's everybody doing? I'm Gene Sundberg, solicitor here from the city of Erie. It's nice to meet everybody in person. I'm delighted to be here in person and to meet everybody. And I was having all types of trouble with the Zoom meetings, kind of in and out, so I'm fired up to be here. What I've provided for you is the solicitor's report. What also I wanted to start to do was to give you an idea as to what our office has been doing on behalf of your city of Erie Land Bank with regard to properties that have recently been transferred. So that's number one. So I've itemized those. Those are the properties that we have been successful in conveying since March of earlier this year. Number two, those are the two properties that I'm working with our West Bayfront to get finalized. That should probably be done this month, as well as number three, 112 Sobieski. What we were working on with regard to Sobieski is finalized in reconsideration, so that again will be transferred and finalized this month. And what's that doing is it's generating more income for the city of Erie Land Bank, so that I can provide these numbers to Kelly, so that we can continue to see our operating budget expand. Number four has been done, 422 Poplar Street. And then as Executive Director Snippert said, we have been successful in clearing all the title issues with regard to the properties that were purchased previously from the Judicial Sale. So that's why there has been of recent so many encouraging real estate transactions, because we're able to clear those up. Which leads me really into the next topic. As we've clarified those year's tax sales. We're ever mindful that the tax sales are coming up again. I hate to even think about the fall, but that's where we're headed at this point. And I had a nice discussion with Aaron recently, that as the City of Erie Land Bank, we're not limited to just securing the least desirable properties. That's part of our goal and our obligation, but we are able to secure properties that would return and provide a nice profit. So we are aggressively and proactively reviewing those upcoming tax sales. If there's a piece of property that we're able to secure that is gonna return us a profit, by all means, we need to jump in that soup. Up till now, what we've really kind of been doing is taking some of the more difficult properties, which is of vital importance, but Aaron and I have discussed that we don't necessarily need to limit ourselves to that. So we're looking at that. That's expanding our breadth of opportunity. So I'm excited about that as well. So that's what we talked about with regard to issue 6. Issue 7. We have been asked to meet with the Erie County Redevelopment Authority to begin discussions as to whether it would be beneficial to have a memorandum of understanding. I am not overly familiar with memorandums of understanding, other than recently received one from City Hall Engineering Department on behalf of another client. So what I plan on doing is to getting the appropriate individuals together for a meeting over a cup of coffee and figuring out what benefits, if any, there would be to have a memorandum of understanding as between this City of Erie Land Bank and the Erie County Redevelopment Authority. It may turn out that we don't need to have one in writing, or that it limits us too much, and then we would just say, okay, we don't need to do that. But it might be beneficial to have one in place that would be evolving and continuing to develop, so that everybody knows where they're coming from and where they're going, and how the different parties interplay with each other and what the expectations are. So I'm encouraged about having the opportunity to do that. We just discussed that recently, so I'm going to be aggressive about getting that formulated and then put together, and then report to this board on a periodic basis as to what we're doing and whether we think it's headed in the right direction, or we can just say, you know what, we really don't need that. We're doing okay. And the only thing I worry about is if it becomes too limiting in scope. But as long as we know that we're all working together, the same goals, same ideas, same ideals, then I think it's something that we ought to look into. And as long as we know that it can be developed, expanded, or limited on a later basis, and so that it doesn't put blinders on us that keeps us so rigid that it prevents us from expanding what we're doing and what opportunities we have. So that's a memorandum of understanding that we're going to set up a meeting to see how that might be beneficial. And then the last issue that I have for the board today is number 8. There are a number of conflict of interest statements and ethical procedures or protocols that other land banks have across the Commonwealth. I'm going to start looking at those and see what we can do to maybe glean the better parts from them, to make sure that we protect the board of directors for the City of Land Bank, and also those administrative personnel within the City of Erie Land Bank, so that we aren't painting ourselves into a corner that we shouldn't get into, so that everybody kind of has a more definitive operating agreement as it relates to ethical considerations, because by the very nature of government, you're going to have some crossover and melding of positions and responsibilities, and we just don't want to get any of us into a situation where, you know, we could have avoided it. So that's what I'm looking at as well, and should be able to give an update within 30 days, 60 days, and 80 days. That's where we're headed. I'm excited about the opportunity. And by all means, if there's questions or problems, don't be back. You know I'm not. Reach out to me. Let me know. Okay. Thank you.
Attorney Sundberg, thank you for the update. Any discussion on solicitor's report? If not, we'll move to unfinished business and new business. Aaron?
All right, thank you, Chris. We have a couple property proposals to review today. The first one being 1904 June Street. We received two proposals, one from Jaquin Beeson for $3,000 to construct a single-family home with off-street parking on the lot. If you're not familiar with 1904 June Street, it is a fairly large parcel. The size of it escapes me at the moment, but I believe it is almost...
Third.
Yeah, it's large. Okay. But, so it's certainly suitable for a single-family home construction. And then we received a second offer from a Tim Lucas for $6,000 to put in a community garden to benefit the community. So I reached out to Ms. Beeson and Mr. Lucas to get some further, you know, for them to elaborate on their plan. Ms. Beeson decided to show up today and address the board herself, but she did say, you know, to me that she had planned to start building in 2022 to, you know, continue her family daycare. Mr. Lucas just responded that he plans to put in a community garden to benefit the community and the surrounding areas and build a small gardening shed. We did some background. Mr. Lucas does not own any property in the city of Erie currently. He resides in a rental property on East 8th Street, delinquent on water, sewer, and garbage. And then Ms. Beeson, I believe she is current on everything, and she currently resides in rental housing.
Discussion?
Well, I heard from Mr. Horton and Ms. Beeson, and I'd like to put out there, if we just table this, give them an opportunity to work together. I think Gary has already mentioned that this, you know, for the betterment of their neighborhood and for their group. He has no opposition to her plans. What she has is as she said, well, I'm thinking I'd like to see this there. And I would hate to, a year from now, we look back and she's still thinking about it, or there's no movement or progress in what she would like to do with the property. And they were out there talking in the hallway, and I'm sure, you know, that Gary will help her in any kind of way. And I think, Kathy, you're more familiar with that east side group out there.
Just to clarify, Tim Lucas is not working with Gary Horton because they both mentioned
No, not
community
Luke,
garden.
1904 Jim. For
Oh,
Ms.
I'm sorry,
Beeson.
the
For
others,
Ms. Beeson.
yeah, Beeson. So, but you have two, let me make sure, there's two proposals, there's two offers.
Yes,
And
one.
Mr. Lucas mentioned a community garden, so did Mr. Horton, but Mr. Horton is not working with Mr. Lucas.
No.
He's, okay, all right, just wanted to clarify that. It's just-
No, my conversation this morning with Mr. Horton was that he said that the community in the neighborhood has plenty of community gardens and he would not want to see another community garden in the area.
They do. A lot of people who are living in the public housing, they have their own gardens, and then Gary Horton, with the Quality of Life Learning Center, has a substantial community garden that they run with some of the people who work and utilize their center. So just thinking also, I mean, I know that there's a difference in price proposals, but I think in the long run, if we actually had a working single-family home, if it's a daycare, if it's not just a single-family home, that would be a better improvement for the city over the long term, even though it's less money being offered. was my thought.
I agree with Kathy, info, but I guess, I'd probably want to see exactly, you know, Mr. Horton's gonna work with her, what actually he's going to be doing, and, you know, maybe what her plans are, just to make sure that the, you know, the land is just gonna be there, still vacant and nothing in the land.
Yeah. What was on the property before?
Nothing. It's just a lot,
It's just been
vacant lot.
vacant.
No,
It's
a double
huge
lot,
though,
it's
it's,
a large lot.
Yeah, there was a single-family property.
Okay.
it's a very
Structure
large
that
Actually, I
lot.
think it's
demolished.
it used to be 3 parcels, I think.
Yeah, it's pretty big.
Does it abut then the Quality of Life Learning Center property? It sounded like Gary was.
It's on the southwest corner of 19th and
It's just-
June.
you don't
I
have an
went by
area
there
for
this
you,
morning.
Chris, in your packet.
It'd be a great improvement for that area if she follows through on that plan.
And to be honest, community gardens, although they sound like a really good idea, it's very hard to maintain ones that rely on community support and volunteers, and I think
Back a
Aaron.
couple years later, and they're not what they said they were gonna be.
No. Most of the gardens that I described are not really community gardens, they're people's individual, they're just raising their own vegetables, and then, except for Gary's, but he's got a built-in volunteer group, and it's on his property, so he maintains it well.
So, yeah, my first thought when I was going through here is I would much rather support somebody who does want to build, makes
Mhm.
sense. I also have taken issue in the past with folks who do owe back fees, whether it's the other individual or the rental company. I don't know his affiliation with that A&E Investments, but somebody owes back fees.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
so I just think as a matter of practice that we should always give preference to those who are current. So I agree with everything everybody has said. I'd like to give her an opportunity to come forth with a plan. And I guess this leads to another question moving forward. When somebody does say they want to construct, is there something we ought to be doing on the front end of that before they even get to this point, to bring a set of drawings or a plan or a permit or something? Because we can't just take their word for it that they're going to do it. So that maybe we don't have to table things. Could they know in advance that they have to get the necessary paperwork ready? And then we can talk about that later. But there should be something we can
Mhm.
capture on the front end here. But I'm supportive of what she'd like to do, and I don't know if that means we give her 60 days. I mean, it's going to take a while to come up with some plans, probably 90 days. I don't want to freeze this for a real long time, but
So you're wanting to table it for 60 days?
I would think you would need at least 60 days to line up financing to get some
Okay.
building plans in place. I'm trying to be fair. We can't tie it up for forever either.
Mhm.
So I would think within 60 days you could come forward with a commitment to finance, preliminary review of some building plans.
Maybe also, I guess, speak with, Gary Horton, only because he said he had an interest also, but also wanting to work with her to see, I guess how things are moving forward.
Okay, yeah, no, certainly.
Well, yeah, because,
Is
I mean,
that a fair amount of time?
I would say so, Chris, I agree with you, 60 days, it seems fair, and if she needs longer, she can come back and say,
You don't have
give
to
me an
close a
extra
loan,
third,"
but you need to have a commitment letter or something.
which she should be able to prove, and the mission of the land bank is to take properties and try to put them back into productive
Back into
reuse, rather
productive.
than just sitting there.
Right, I would definitely
vacant.
agree.
And like I say, anytime you have a chance to do that, that'd be great.
Okay, well, I will, I guess if the board decides to table it, then.
So what do we have to do, table it first or just extend?
So can I get a motion to table this for 60 days,
Mhm.
giving Ms. Beeson time to bring some plans to us?
So moved.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, Aaron.
All right, I'll reach out to her and get some direction and speak more with Mr. Horton as far as that property goes. 2421 German Street. vacant lot. We demoed the structure on it as part of the work plan too. Sylvester Booz Jr. and his fiancee have acquired the house at 2417 German from his parents' estate, and they would like to purchase that neighboring lot as a side yard and eventual off-street parking. Mr. Booz is, in looking at, he's delinquent in water, sewer, and garbage. He says, however, that's incorrect, that the bills are in his fiance's name, so he's not sure what these water, sewer, and garbage bills are that we got. So he is reaching out to the Water Authority to try to clarify that and get some kind of resolution as far as those go, since, like he said, the bills are in his fiance's name. So I'm not certain of that. I'm sure when we pulled this, it was pulled by address and not by name. So he's supposed to get back to me on that. That was a conversation I had with him this morning.
So he owns the property, the utilities are in her name.
That's what he is stating, but that's not the information we found.
Property's in his name?
The property is in his name, and the bills that we have are in his name. So, and he's delinquent in the amount of $500.
So I
Can
know
we
it.
table it to maybe next month? And he could maybe bring, I guess, clarification on, I guess, whose names the bills are in and if the bills have actually been paid.
Yeah, I would say he should be able to have an answer by the next meeting.
Because the property, there are no back taxes on it, but it was only conveyed this year in April, so.
Yes.
It's too early to tell, and again, this goes to practice. We've had this discussion before about requiring everybody to be current, and I don't remember where we left that, but I think we agreed that there should be a minimum, whether it's 250 or above. I mean, from time to time, everybody has a bill that maybe slips past a 30-day or something. That happens to everybody from time to time, but the amount you were suggesting there, that sounds like more than one bill. And I just think we need to get folks to get current on these things.
Yeah, he made a payment in June for $81, took it down to a balance of $2, and then the new bill. And it's the garbage sewer he just hasn't made a payment on in 2 months. So, okay, well, I will, yeah.
Need a motion for that?
Well, do we want to table this, or do we want to approve it contingent upon him bringing receipts showing he's paid up?
We have done that in the past.
I'm almost inclined to say that you know, we approve this with a condition, he's got to bring you a receipt that this has been paid, and then we can move forward. Because he might do that next week, and he doesn't have to wait a month.
Right. I would be inclined to support that.
Yeah,
Okay.
I like that idea.
I'll make a motion to that effect.
Okay, second?
I'll second
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
All right, thank you. All right, property donations. I know we touched on this last month, and I wanted to put it back on the agenda just for some further discussion so that we can kind of have an idea of how we want to proceed as individuals reach out to us for property donations. Right now, there's about 3 properties out there that people have mentioned that they would like to donate them. Unfortunately, those 3 properties are all demolition candidates. You know, so it's one, you know, certainly the practice has always been and that, you know, we would convey a property after a successful title search and there was no liens on the property, and of course they would bring current all of their taxes. So we would convey the property with taxes being current, and then of course no liens on the property at no cost to the authority other than the cost of the title search and legal work on the property. So like the sample I provided from Ms. Franco, you know, of course we sent that to her. She was in agreement to pay the 2019-2020 taxes. The issue comes along is that as we accept donation of it, of course, you know, there's a cost to the land bank because we've got to demolish that structure. So at some point the money's got to come from somewhere. You know, certainly we could request from the Erie County Land Bank for additional demolition funds, you know, if they have those in their coffers, you know, but then, you know, it's kind of at what point do we accept donations and continuously add to our vacant lots, which cost us $20 a month in mowing and maintenance all summer long. So certainly one of those catch-22s as far as, getting rid of a blighted structure that ultimately is going to end up probably the tax sale and on the repository anyways. So it's just kind of put it out there for discussion.
So, I'll kick it off. So my thoughts are, I mean, this is probably, has to be one where we look at it case by case, because if it's in a certain area of the city that we happen to be targeting, or is part of a broader picture of something that we're working on, then maybe we want to take that on. If it's just not fitting into a current plan or a current initiative, maybe we pass. I don't know if there's a better way of doing this other than looking at it case by case.
Yeah, now I would say, because the one on Cochrane, it's in a stable neighborhood, but it's got a hole in the roof. The second floor's coming down on the first floor. Like it's the worst house in probably the block, if not, several blocks. So, but Warfel's one on a block where, there's a vacant house right next door to it.
It just seems like we need to maybe give ourselves maximum flexibility. And if somebody suggests to you that they, or offers to donate a property, that you bring it to us for open discussion, and then we can say makes sense or doesn't make sense. Unless
Yeah, I'd hate to think if, and I agree with you. I think for now anyway, we should look at it on a case-by-case basis, because I'd hate to set a plan up or something in place that would someplace down the road tie our hands. And some of these properties, if it betters the neighborhood, sure, we're going to have to take that on, and that's what the land bank's for.
It's a hard balance to make when you're in a position like the land bank or the redevelopment authority, when you typically are dealing, what the solicitor was also suggesting is that it's going to get very costly if we just deal on the worst of the worst properties. You're sitting on collectively 100 vacant lots that can't move. I mean, and there's a cost associated with that that the city has to take on for a very long time. And so I think it's case by case, but there's got to be a strategy behind it, because we can't continue just to bank lots that have no future in reuse. So I think, in a situation where it's a vacant lot beside if there's a house, two houses that are vacant, that actually might be a better strategy, because you could acquire both of them, demolish the homes, and have a lot that could be rebuilt or redeveloped at some point. But I think this is something that we're going to continue to talk about and really come up with a strategy, because the land bank and the redevelopment authority can't just continue to hold on to these individual lots that have no reuse. No one can sustain that. I don't think any community can sustain that. It doesn't really answer your question, but I think case by case is where I was going.
I mean, I can certainly, we can continue on a case by case, and I mean, I can also reach out to neighboring property owners, and also kind of get their feeling on whether or not they would be interested in a side lot, and not necessarily meaning they would be close on it after we did demolish it. Of course, they aren't tied to it, but we'd certainly provide you guys as much information as possible on donations, and try to give you as much information as you can to make that decision.
I'm sorry, maybe you said this and I didn't hear it, Aaron. That Warfel Avenue, what is the property surrounding it like? Is it a fairly stable block where if we...
It's hit or miss. Of course, it's Warfel runs along the Bayfront Connector on the east side over in Mr. Horton's neighborhood. It's up and down. Like I said, there's a mix of business and residential. It sits on the west side of the street, south side of the street, however you want to look at it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's mostly stable. The neighbors, the housing that's there, is in good condition.
That's a prime example, though, of why I think we need to be case by case, because they're on Warfel. Over the years I've been managing the economic development funds, I've had 3 projects on Warfel, because it's a mix. It's residential, but it's also light industrial and some commercial. So it really depends on where you are there. So for instance, if somebody were to come forward and want to donate a property that's right next to, there's a small tooling shop over there, there's a laundry service business over there, that it may fit something that we're not aware of, so I don't want to dismiss it right away. So that's a prime example of you don't really know until you discuss it, if it fits into anything.
Okay, so moving forward, I guess I will bring any proposals for property donation to the board with as much information as I possibly can to make that decision. Thank you. Moving on, the last thing, the 2021 judicial sale, as Gene talked about in his solicitor report, over the past, the taxes, the tax sale of the properties, as in this last, the 2020 tax sale, we accepted were, contingent sales to Best and our West Bayfront. Of course, the land bank didn't go after any properties. The land bank has the ability to acquire properties at the minimum bid, which this year was $1,188. Okay, so we could put in our proposal to have those properties held for us at the sale. We're not held to taking the worst of the worst properties. Certainly, those are, of course, like we talked, those are, of course, the ones that we want to see gone. A lot of neighborhoods want to see gone, but also there's the ability for us to take a property that could be rehabilitated, that we could sell to a developer under a developer's agreement for them to rehabilitate and sell, or we could just take ownership of a property and sell it as is, and of course take that money and put it into a fund to help continue the blight mitigation through the land bank. So I provided the list. There's 66 city properties on the list. 9 of those are blighted. 4 of them are on the 2021 work plan. So of course those won't make it to the tax sale. But there's just a wide range of properties on there, and we're certainly looking through that list to kind of see and get a feel for what there is and what the possibilities could be for the land bank to acquire, and then ultimately, either sell for rehabilitation or sell outright as is. So I provided the list. There's also a map that kind of dots. It's kind of hard to see. It was the best I could do with the city map, but it does show where all of the tax sale properties are that are listed on that list currently. Of course, the biggest problem with the tax sale always is, people can come up with their taxes, so we can put together a plan for a property today, and of course it could not be on the list come sale time, but it's certainly a place to start and be prepared when that time comes.
Okay.
That's all I have. If you have any questions.
Any other questions or discussion on any of the items? Hearing none then, can I get a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Okay, thank you, everyone.
See?
Thank you.
Thanks.
Call me tomorrow.
All right.